Okay, this week's video, I'm gonna let the team at Fox take you guys through the Fox Factory Truck event set up a few weeks ago. In this video, you're gonna get a detailed overview of the truck and see how it performs on the trails. Fox called this event, and I quote, a media-centric event, and we have the opportunity to invite a couple of handful of VIP customers that may want to see and feel this truck. The event was located at Fox Marking Proving Grounds facility in Ocotillo, California. And the event included a technical presentation, suspension deep dive with the truck on a lift so we can really get a good look at it, a ride along to experience the truck with a professional driver, and then at the end, some seat time behind the wheel. Now we got lucky and got invited after a good friend of ours that was interested in this truck could not go. He asked them if we could go in his place, and I jumped at the chance to take a look at a GM-based Raptor. Now, apologies for the audio here. This event, while media friendly, was not really ready for media. So I had to quickly set up and shoot what I could, and I did not get a chance to set up the mics on all the presenters. And there was just too many presenters to mic up. So the audio is not the best. Also, the first clip did not like the LED lighting refresh rate and caused some weird interference. But bear with me, I did find a stopping point and I fixed it, so it's only for this first clip. Now, I think it's important to show you the message from the passionate team at Fox that developed this truck. So in this video, it will be in their words, and you will see all the raw footage of the presentation and the clips we captured of the truck on the trails. This was a long presentation, so I did cut out all the dead air, all the ums and ahs to make the video shorter. There was about 20 minutes of that. You don't realize how much you do it until you see yourself back on video. This video is also so that you can make up your own mind on this build without my influence. Tune in next week as I give you guys my honest opinions on this truck, and it may surprise some of you. So without further ado, here is the Fox Factory Track event from a couple weeks ago.
Obviously, we're here to talk about the Fox Factory truck. We've got two examples here. Both of these trucks are prototype trucks. They have a lot of cool parts on them. A lot of them are production intent, but there are some stuff on it that are not quite what it's going to be. Some of these things 3D prototype, stuff like that. So know that going into it. These trucks are awesome examples of what this final truck's going to be, but they are not the exact truck. With that, I want to kind of introduce a couple of people, and we're going to do a quick presentation over kind of some of the technology in the truck. The other thing I'll say is this facility. If you guys have not been here before, most of you have not, even some of our team has not been here. This is, we call it Marking Proving Grounds. This is a facility designed around John Marking, one of our employees, one of our technicians, one of our founders that really helped build the company. A lot of patents, a lot of things were developed from him, and so we built the facility a few years ago. It was dedicated to him. This is where we do a lot of our testing, a lot of our field testing that we can do outside of the office. So we can come here and use all the grounds around here to really push the vehicle limits and see what they can do. A lot of the testing that we'll get into on these trucks was done out here by Max, his team. We have Nobu here as well, who is involved with a lot of electronics and the suspension and all the tuning side of taking these trucks to the next level with the live valve and how that turns into the actual app that we'll talk about. We have the Brenthal brothers. If you don't know those guys, they race trucks. Believe it or not, and we have a small company called Brenthal, right? Yes. Well, I don't industry. Yeah, it's interesting name. So you race trucks, they have everything from full-blown production trucks to race, as well as a ride and drive program. They have pro truck school, all kinds of stuff.
Anything off-road.
Yeah, pretty much anything off-road. Chris Rose at the end, very instrumental with this whole project. Everything from the design elements to a lot of the other things happening. So we can go into a lot of the details there. And then I'm just the marketing guy that gets to lead the conversation, and thank you all for being here. So with that, Chris, I'm going to have you come up to me first. I'm assuming most of you have seen the website, kind of seen some of the quick specs on this truck. I'll run through them. Feel free to take out my stuff.
Thanks for coming today. Chris Rose, lead our advanced development group. This truck starts off with a 6.2 liter V8 in it. We put a 3 liter Gen 5 Whipple on that, and we pump it up to estimated 700 crank horsepower. The Baja kits premier suspension on all the best everywhere. Well, the travel numbers are 15.5 in the back, 14.5 in the front. Those are real numbers. It's got the big 3.0, Fox shocks. That's what the team's going to get into here. All the specifics on that. Full carbon fiber everywhere on the truck. We did that for a lot of reasons. The strength, the weight, And we want it to fit like OEM sheet metal. That's what carbon fiber does. It's gives you that. All the bumpers and the skid plates, everything's specifically engineered to protect the vehicle, but keep all your functionality of all your ADAS, your assistance, your cross traffic, your park sensors, all that stuff. You're not going to have lights on the dash. Everything's going to work. It's going to detect just like a regular truck. The low range C37s on 17s, the beat grip methods, you can run and just hit hard and you're not going to deflate or anything. It's got a full OEM spec Ultimate Data 60 in the back, 35 spline chromoly shafts. We re-geared the truck to 373 from a 323 ARD air locker. It's got onboard air. It's got an air chuck. The truck's going to come with an air hose. It's going to come with a digital inflator. If you want to air down, or for some reason you need to help a buddy out, you can do it. It's all right there. We're limiting, production this first year to 500. Like we said, factory fit and finish. When you buy this truck off the lot, we want you to have the same quality experience of any other vehicle. We don't want you to, oh, this one is built, it's a little different here. No, we want you to have the same experience overall. And then, yeah, backed by our 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. And, the powertrain has 5-year, 60,000. That rear axle we put in, we're matching the powertrain 5-year, 60,000 on it because we believe in it that much.
So the cool thing with this truck coming together, obviously, Fox Factory as a whole, we have several different companies within there. Our focus has been really about components, whether it be suspension, whether it be the shocks, whether it be all that stuff. And we have a upfitting side that does fully upfitted trucks. And this is bringing all that together, all that technology and advances that we've done and say, let's put it all in one package. On top of that, this is Fox's 50th anniversary. This is kind of the crowning jewel of what that 50 years is. With that, introduce Nobu. Kind of talk about the background of why this truck came together in the first place and some of the technology. Nobu, I run the advanced development group on the Fox shock side. Chris does it on we'll call it like the upfit business. And what's really interesting about this truck, it's multiple teams coming together to kind of realize the vision. I'll mainly talk about it from the suspension aspect. I think it's important to note that this was very much a team effort. We had teams in El Cajon, teams in Georgia working together to develop technology, to develop performance in the truck. And Max will kind of go through some of kind of the testing and tuning steps we had to take and how much we went to kind of really refine this vehicle. To get started with the beginning, right? About 4 years ago, I kind of pulled together a group called the Advanced Development Group for the automotive shock side of the company. And what we did is we tried to think about, well, what's the next step in off-road suspension? How do we take it to the next level? We kind of started through this process and we were working on different elements and bringing that together into the vehicle. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I'll start with the shocks, 3.2-inch OD, a larger oil volume for better cooling. We're really looking to optimize the mechanical components first for the highest performance possible. Really big highlights of this shock are the traction and rebound control with software. This is the first time that we've really looked at doing this internally from an algorithm standpoint, from a whole system standpoint. And then on top of that, we've also added hydraulic bump stops. This is something that any kind of high performance off-road vehicle has. This allows you to really take those big whoops, those big, large terrain features, and not bottom out part speed. The team spent a lot of time getting that to package within the IFS for the suspension. That's not an easy thing to do. And coming up with some unique ideas and designs and taking those applications. With this vehicle, you can see this kind of linked wrapper arm style bump stop. Another thing that we did as a team is we looked for maximum performance, both in suspension, in driver steering feel, and when we went through that process, we decided that this vehicle needed a special customized steering damper. So even though this is a unique product to this truck, we went through a big process making this truck basically work better. So this is a custom element built specifically for this truck, developed by our teams, tested and refined, and it's something that few companies will go and do. The overview of what we built here as the Fox team is we have these high-performance semi-active shocks. We have an electronics package that includes a custom ECU, and we have a sensor suite that ECU uses to control its algorithm and to inform what's happening on the suspension side. We also developed a unique kind of touch point so that the driver can adjust the suspension in real time. So while you're driving the truck, you'll see today you can change from different terrain modes as well as kind of what we call mode modifiers, where maybe you're someone who likes a little bit more floaty feel or you want it to be more comfortable, you switch it to comfort. Maybe you want to kind of rail the road or you really want to hit those whoops, you can flip it to sport. This allows the customer or the driver get that optimized suspension performance that they're looking for. And then finally, we also developed a mobile app. It could be controversial. Some people don't want to be looking at their mobile app. But what this allows us to do is to extend that capability or that customer experience into more than what you can do with just a touch point. When we went to the mobile app, we really thought about what features would really work, bring value to the customer,
what kind of information, what kind of control, what kind of other information and ideas could you bring? So this first screen just talks about the different terrain modes that we defined for this system. Kind of thought about it in a couple different ways, and the strategy is really like, okay, if you're on the road and you're on asphalt, you want a certain kind of optimization. So within that, built this on-road tune. And then for the trail side, if you're on something that's kind of tight and maybe has a lot of features where there's a lot of wheel motion and you want that body control, you use trail. And then for the open desert, we have this special desert tune that allows you to have more bottom out resistance, keeps the ride height higher, so we kind of bias it to more compression, and then only bring in the rebound when you need to control kick or you need to control like large gross body motion. Another feature that we added into the app was telemetry and real-time mapping. This kind of shows our widget architecture, right? When you go into the truck, you'll see the phone on the mount, and you can swipe through when you click on this telemetry button, and you can see what the system is doing. It also, as it's pulling in vehicle data, you can see your steering wheel angle, you can see your throttle and brake. And what we're trying to do here is really just show you what the system is doing and what that data can mean for you. Some people will say, I'm not interested in this, but other people nerd out or geek out on what the suspension is doing and maybe want to understand better, can do that. And what we did is we tied this telemetry feature into mapping. So if you want to map your ride, maybe you're going somewhere and you want to know, did I bottom out? Did I top out at this location? You can replay your ride and you can look there and you can see what exactly was happening with your truck from a suspension perspective.
I'm not saying this is great for pre-running, but this is great for pre-running.
We will be pre-running in this truck for Bob on coming up next week.
You know, this is our first launch. There's a lot that can be done with the data when you fuse all those different pieces together from the vehicle to the software side. Like this slide says, this is really the beginning for us. This is our first launch into a system that is software defined, that is connected, that is intelligent. The last thing I'll talk about as far as the app is considered is the diagnostics in garage. From a diagnostics perspective, we also have this feature where if there's an issue with the system, it will notify the driver. You can click into it, you can see what component is maybe causing a problem, get out the bid, and then you can call our service or you can take it in, and it really allows you to know, okay, what is the issue, how best to deal with it. The other thing that it does is it will intelligently know if you added another accessory or new component that Fox comes up with, it'll automatically populate the app without you having to do anything and just add that into the system. And then finally, the garage screen. I really just wanted to know, in the garage screen, you have the vehicle that today is the Fox factory truck, and you'll see this button that says Add New. So without saying too much, I think you can kind of imagine, we're not talking about that today, where that might lead.
That was some exciting news. Yep, this system could be brought to other platforms. Raptor guys, I'm looking at you. Okay, let's get back to it.
With the vehicle, the whole intention was to give you an optimized solution, of the OEM level of what you expect when you buy anything else. This truck, you can see right here, the 6-button switch pad. We didn't just put some wires in and some switches so you can just arbitrarily turn things on and off. It's got a smart control system. We're also listening to the vehicle. We know what it's doing. We're controlling, what speed to lock or can lock at. When does it unlock based on the drive mode that you're in? There's more express privileges when you tell it that you're off-road. It's going to stay locked at higher speeds. It's going to ignore traction control, ABS, and keep that rear axle locked. You've got 3 off switches at the bottom. You've got your plug, your spot, and the locker. There's 8 nitro quattro lights on the front of this. 2 of them, they're S8 box. They're tied into the OEM fog light button. 2 of them are spots. 4 of them are combos, controlled independently. There's some cool things that you can do in off-road. You can even make it strobe if you hold it down. And then there's 3 aux controls. Those are pre-wired on the truck. And the front center bumper area where you see that there's nothing there, that's so that you can put what you want there. There's a 25 amp lead already there to plug into the go. Up by the compressor, there's 15 amp, and then in the bed, there's already 15 amp. But say you don't want to put it in the bed. Right up inside the passenger side fender wall, you can disconnect it and pull that lead there if you want to put more stuff up front or whatnot. Add rock lights or something like that, whatever you desire. And the testing with Max and team, they did a bunch of data acquisition. We saw that the transmission was getting a little warm when you're out here, 90 plus degree days and you're pushing it hard. It's got a 200% size plate style transmission core to keep those pins down and keep your reading beat so you're not roasting the transmission. Carbon fiber, like I said earlier, it's for strength, weight, fit. What you're seeing there is not a sticker, that is show carbon reveal on the bed, on the top of the hood, underside of the hood. Everything that's been replaced bodywork is carbon fiber. The fuel door is carbon fiber. So very intentionally thought through of what we wanted to get you to wear. You know, the bumper and skid plates, you know, the fasteners, everything's corrosion resistant. We don't want to get rusting. There's a lot of cool stuff on the Baja kit suspension that Jordan and Jonathan are going to talk about. I'll leave that for them. Full comprehensive, you know, experience, you know, on this vehicle for the customer.
And with that, great intro, great segue. Let's talk about suspension. I don't know if you guys want to go to here versus truck, but I'll bring up the slides and kind of do a quick overview and then we'll go over to the truck.
Yeah, go for it. We like being by the truck. Quick rundown. The front is 14.5 inches of wheel travel. Rear is 16.5 inches of wheel travel. Front double A-arm setup. Rear is a 4-link setup. The most notable thing about the 14.5 inches of wheel travel is any other vehicle out there that claims it has that is not actually usable travel. So if you went to cycle it yourself, you would find the maximum of any of its competitors, 13. So it's got considered this one. Absolutely. Coilovers front and rear, active suspension, like we were talking about. 3.2 coilovers, steering stabilizer, steering linkage, aftermarket knuckles. But I think they'd be best to show you on the actual trucks. You can see.
Yeah. So yeah, let's run through some of the testing, some of that stuff with Max. Doing that, and then I think we'll do a deeper dive on the truck on a lot of these things like that.
Perfect.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Max Crew. I'm with the Off-Road Aftermarket Test and Ride Engineering Division within Fox. So we're kind of like the bridge between the design, Chris's group, DG, like the advanced groups as well. Basically, this project started for me on our end. We had two major durabilities we ran into this building, one in 2022, one in 2023. So this has been in the works for a while. And it's worth noting this is a whole new kit. This isn't on the market. This is brand new. Everything on here are new. Been through a lot of R&D. The engineering cycle has been pretty extensive on this, but I'll kind of save some questions for some parts over there. We've got a lot of prototype parts on the table. Feel free to ask me any questions or talk about it more. But I do want to talk about the tuning efforts that went into this truck because there was a lot of tuning. Everyone said they could just piece this kit together on their own. It's not going to be that easy. We did a lot of time out here, a lot of weeks, months, even commuting down from San Diego each day to do tuning exercises out here. We had two different shock setups. We had a 3.0 passive kit. On that one, we had 55 front tune changes and 51 rear tune changes. Once we bumped up to the algorithm and the electronic control shock, that's 3.2 live valve, 43 front tune changes, 39 rear tune changes. And that's just on the vehicle. It doesn't include the dyno work that will go back home. As you can see, these shocks are very heavy. So imagine taking the front shocks off 98 times, taking the rear shocks off 90 times. It adds up and takes a long time. So a lot of effort put into this truck on the tuning side. After that kind of was worked out, it's when we started jumping into the testing side. With this combined testing of the two different durabilities, the off-road miles total on GM1, which is the truck behind the one on the lift, those are main test truck we've got. At the time this slide was written, I think we're up to 17,000 now, but 7,345 off-road miles, and then about 7,800 on-road miles. So the truck's gone through a lot. You guys paid for an absolute ton of mileage is on it, and we did find a ton of issues with it, which is good. We got, I think, in total 96 line item issues that we discovered throughout the R&D cycle, and each one of those had action items and driven to the point of coming to completion with it. Like I said, 96 line items, each one had a good action item for it. It's all taken care of, so that way when it gets to the end customer, it's de-risked on our. I guess this is the fun fact slide that I kind of put together while we were down here. You can read through the fun stuff on here, but a lot of good support with the catalog. We're very happy that they're here and we're kind of helping them, and they're helping us by all means. So it's a great relation to have. But one of the three things, if I had to hit on it, we'll get more into vehicles and they're talking about suspension, was we put a ton of effort into chassis development of this one, and trying to stiffen up parts of the frame where it's kind of seeing bending motion and that moment of inertia kind of just not holding up. So a lot of the effort into the chassis development, we'll kind of see it as they're pointing out with the shock tower brace. The next one is while we're tuning out here, we're also recording and Nobu touched on it with the app. We'll see the displacements on that side. We've got a much more that engineering software that we use in our tuning, but with that, we're able to record temperatures of the shock, velocity of the shock, displacements of the shock, and we can take that and turn it into a road load test or a road load profile on our dynos up top. So instead of coming down here and wasting 5 people's time, five people's efforts and resources throughout the day, we can just put that on our dyno back at work, our big hydraulic one, and run that immediately
and that'll run for a week or so, and it's accelerated. I think that's all I have for you guys.
And we just skipped the hot dog.
Oh yeah, okay, the hot dogs. Let me tell you about the Nostalgia HDT 600 pop-up hot dog toaster. It's an absolute lifesaver, let me tell you. 63 hot dogs cooked in that one. I'm now regretting it. That was a bad decision on my end, but when you're in the middle of the heat on the day, you need something quick, it totally works out. And the burrito orders, those were also fun. So a lot of food consumed here as well. Happy in the kitchen. So yeah,
So let's go check out the truck. It actually looks very OE and factory, so when you first look at it, you're like, are you sure that's aftermarket? These model trucks come with an aluminum knuckle, but there were certain cross sections that were actually having cracking and some issues, which Max and his team, while testing, actually found them. It was not something that was immediately apparent. It was after doing thousands of testing that they discovered that, and then made a new steering knuckle. Steering, these are pretty cool and unique. The whole steering system on this truck, very unique actually. A common issue or challenge with making any sort of suspension kit on a truck is how do you get the steering across from the rack to the knuckle, and how do you put a big shock in there? The 3.2 shock, it's massive. Again, with that, complete steering system was put in here to bend around it. You'll see a high angle ball joint on the end, and then
And it's very factory tire off though, because if you use a aftermarket for any reason, one of the biggest things you'll see in a Raptor is you lose your steering rack, right? Because water gets inside of it. This is completely sealed.
fully designed solution with the steering boot. Probably one of the coolest, most unique things about this one is the steering damper. There's a damper on the steering to control any wheel shake or movement while you're going off-road. That's just a common thing in any truck. When you're going off-road, you have braking bumps, or you hit the brakes, go too hard, too light. There's a whole system developed that the team did many iterations of testing just to slow it down in those situations.
With slowing it down, there was a lot of back and forth with their team to make sure that while you're driving, you had standard road feel rather than it got too stiff and was overdone. So you still have a lot of road feel on a normal daily basis, but when it gets through the higher speed, balancing it'll tighten it up.
Yep, big part of all the suspension is while there is performance, again, 14.5 inches of wheel travel, which is really incredible for bolting on a kit to the front of the truck.
All of the speaking of bolting on, it's 100% bolt on,
Yep.
no welding whatsoever on the vehicle.
Yeah, front and rear, everything's bolt on, not a single weld. All of the joints on the suspension, everything is a bushing or ball joint. It's safe for all weather environments. So whether it's snow, heat, whatever, eliminates all squeaking. Don't need to be greased, very similar to OE style, and all the joints also
They were able to get 38 degrees of angle out of plenty of them.
A lot of articulation.
Yeah, that kind of articulation typically out of a rod end or a uniball. So the articulation's there, the strength's there, and the durability throughout all types of weather conditions, which is really important.
CVs are pretty cool. The whole axle assembly, they're made by RCV. Again, the truck has so much wheel travel, a lot more things had to be addressed than other trucks that are out there. It's a completely custom setup, extra angle, extra droop on the steering and the droop side, in and out of the CVs, really just to withstand the extra articulation through steering and droop of the truck.
Another common issue is slotting on the lower control arms. And if you put aftermarket suspension on, they typically move. This was all thought out, figured, so it is not. It is stationary.
Yep, and it can still be aligned at any dealership. Anywhere you go to get a truck aligned. It's a standard alignment. Like Jonathan was saying, the alignment locks, they lock right in after anyone aligns it. Last of the main items on the front of the truck are the bump stop. Super cool setup with the linkage here. It contacts the arm. The arm is triangulated and it is reinforced underneath this plate. That's something that, in our 20 years of doing race trucks, seeing over and over again.
Last little bit when you're going through a bump, and just that much that it really tightens it up. Keeps you from hitting. The other thing is upper control arms all double sheared. Big one. Yeah. Double shearing an upper control arm is a lot of strength, as well as it has a cross member that's integrated to that to go across both shock mounts.
I think that's pretty much it for the front.
One other thing I'll point out too is it's one of these little elements that people don't think about or they take for granted. That spring is a custom spring at a custom rate that we had made specifically for this application. There's not a lot of companies out there that can kind of pull those resources to go optimize for this vehicle, for what we see this vehicle to be. And so that's where a lot of the decisions came from, right? Everything's built and designed to work together. It's not gonna rub, it's not gonna hit, you're not gonna get some weird performance or weird characteristic. But when you're out there in the desert and you drive it, You will feel how the steering is very natural, how it absorbs the bumps. That's all part of sort of our focus and detail level work that we did to create this truck.
And again, that is a fully custom shock. It's not an off-the-shelf Chevy shock that bolts right on. It's fully developed here.
That's right.
Rear? Yep. So. I'm gonna start out with the trailing arms.
You always start out with trailing arms.
Because they're awesome. Yeah, my favorite thing to say is these are 7075 aluminum billet trailing arm. These are not cast. These start out from a block of aluminum. It literally goes on the same machine that we build our trophy truck trailing arms on, and it is a few inches shy of the same size and length of our trophy truck trailing arms.
We were just realizing earlier that it's only become normal on trophy trucks really in the past few years to do an upgraded billet trailing arm. So to have it on a vehicle that comes off the showroom floor with 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty is pretty radical.
Yeah, and an absolute first too. With the trailing arm, obviously it is bolted onto mounts here. Everything on the back, we already said it, it's all bolt-on. Pretty incredible that the team was able to come up with a system like this. 15.5 inches of wheel travel, this much control, a shock this big.
You have an entire usable bed, obviously.
Usable beds, that was my next point, yeah. Shock stays below the bed, still get the wheel travel. You have the upper links, which also bolt on in a full rear end with the full width. So there's no wheel spacers, there's nothing like that. It's full width, air locker on the back.
Yeah, I will talk about this in the next video.
It's really, really cool, and I think the next thing to do is just go see what it does. Here's pretty much it.
Any questions?
What's the stroke of the rear shock?
Max, or
Front shock travel is 8.34. Now, for reference, the Chevy 1500 Trail Boss stock shaft travel, so just the upfitted stock truck, that's 3.75 inches of shaft travel. So we are effectively a little bit
Triple.
Wow. Yeah.
So 8.2 up front and how much in the back?
11.4. Everything on this truck is like it for a reason. Got a lot of stuff in durability, a lot of things we can talk about it on this side of the parts. 3 different compounds of bushing development just to get, because it's a high angle like they said. With that, we started debonding bushings over durability, so we tried different compounds, different designs, and so lots of effort into just the development and the durability testing on our end. From the test part side, here's those steering knuckles that they were talking about. The issues we were having in the field was basically where they have this relief pocket fit in your LCA ball joint. We started cracking them right here at that stress riser. What our fix was, as they said, we got a new cast version of that, kind of added some more strength into that area where we're seeing the fatigue, but with that we have a much heavier upright now. So we put some speed pockets or speed cutouts into it to try and do some weight savings there. A lot of prototyping that went into it on our end as well to make sure we're still going to cycle the travel cleanly and there's not going to be any binding issues, etc. So
these are custom cast by you guys?
Yeah.
This build only?
Yeah. For this build. So steering damper side of things, this is one of the prototype parts we have. The issue was we have an electronic steering rack now in these new trucks. Chevy's really good at locking down their vehicles, so we tried to get in to increase the, I guess maybe decrease the voltage going into that to try and help improve the resistance in that rack, but it basically bricked the truck out. So we fixed our kind of issue we were having as a shock company would fix it by putting a shock on it. So the packaging on this was very tough. There's not a lot of space up there, and that also had to get integrated into the tie rod that you see over there. And for tie rods, we also have some examples at the end of this table, as well as that steering rack, steering damper mount. So that's all integrated into our parts. Everything from a system level is fully combined or connected. There's a lot of thought into it. It's not just throwing parts at a truck. On the shock side, 3.2 inches. This is an old tuning one, so it's got that smooth body on there just because it's easier for taking on and off however many times I said. And then a lot of our valves as well. This is the X2 architecture, so this is kind of used on our side-by-side platforms. And spring testing, as we kind of pointed out, dual rate springs. Nobu said it's hard to get that with a company or a spring company, but we've got custom dual rate springs in the rear. And the issues we were kind of having is we went through a handful of different design changes to get the right spring rate from a ride frequency perspective as well as a longevity perspective. Just lots of efforts on the lab side testing to make sure that the end customer isn't going to have any issues. Because at the end of the day, when this started, was we have to adhere to the 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. That's a tough one to plan around from a company that's more on the shock side than anything. So lots of quality efforts in our mind from the design side trying to put those out. As well as the fin reservoir that everyone knows and loves. some prototype bump stops, different seal compound. That's all I have for shock side. Maybe you can take it away on the algorithm side and the touch bar side. That's really interesting.
One thing I wanted to just point out about this dual valve shock, you can see the different valves. There's a compression and a rebound valve, and they're actually a different design. Due to our ability to look across our portfolio of products, we can select and optimize each valve for the compression circuit or the rebound circuit. That's kind of another one of those things that Fox can bring to the table that few other shock companies can do. You'll see them use the same valve over and over again and make those compromises, whereas we as a company can really select what we think is best for each circuit. So that's kind of the level of design that went into the shock. As far as the ECU goes, this is a special variant of a kind of high performance ECU. You can see that it has a die cast aluminum enclosure that gives it a lot of good thermal properties. As you're pushing that current out to the valves, this allows the heat to escape from the ECU and make sure that it stays cool. It's also environmentally sealed. It's tested to IP69. It's good for external environments, dirt, rain, moisture, things of that nature. It's got a Bluetooth radio on it. It's one of the customizations that we had the supplier do for us. It allows you to connect the app, and it allows also something I didn't talk about before is this system has been designed from a software perspective to be able to do over-the-air updates. So if you use the mobile app, you can update the software on this ECU and effectively upgrade your suspension. Kind of excited about what that means for the future for new tunes, new calibrations, new features, different kind of optimizations that we're just kind of touching on. And then there's this what we're calling the touch point. Basically, this is the interface that a driver sees when they're inside the car, specifically for suspension, but it has an aux button here because as we develop more products, we may want to control other things with this touch point. When we went to build this, we knew that this was going to be one of the big main faces of this whole system. Used to be our customer would go to each corner, maybe turn an adjuster, but this becomes the adjuster. So we focus a lot on the quality, on the feel, on the materials. This is injection molded aluminum, anodized. These sides are also injection molded stainless steel. Front plate is Gorilla Glass. We really try to have a premium look and feel as well as the quality and durability that, is what Fox is known for. I think that's it.
Where's the ECU normally sit?
For this particular vehicle, it sits underneath the rear seat, and it's also integrated into the vehicle chassis system. So we're taking data from the vehicle CAN bus to inform our algorithm. Things like steering angle, brake pressure, throttle request, vehicle speed, those are fed into our algorithm to help make decisions about suspension.
You also showed two sensors in the slides. What are the sensors?
So one is an IMU, it's a great question. One is an IMU or inertial measurement unit. It's a 6-axis accelerometer and gyro built into a very small package. What that sensor does is it measures and always gives feedback on what is the vehicle body doing. Is it pitching? Is it rolling? Is it heaving? As you're going through the whoops, what's the attitude of it and what is the rate of its change? We use that to really help know what the vehicle's state is at any given time. The other sensor is a rotary position sensor, and if you look in each corner, you'll see a little linkage connected to a rotary sensor. And what that does is it gives you the shock position data. And if you're familiar with Fox, you know that one of the things that John Marking, that this building is named after, came up with is internal bypass. That is position sensitive damping. Well, with these position sensors, we can also extend that capability by taking that position data and making decisions, right? So these shocks do have what I would call passive internal bypass, right? We took our best passive technology and then we added electronics control on top of it. And that's what that position sensor data does. And if you look at the app, there's actually a screen as you're going through the whoops, as you're going through different terrain, you can see what the travels are at each corner.
Are you allowed to go in and tune the suspension yourself?
So right now, the way the system is architected, you have the terrain modes and then you have those modifiers. Internally, we've talked about a lot of different possibilities. And I think the beauty of software is you can give customer experience that someone who doesn't want to go into that complexity can have, but you could also have something where someone could dig deeper. That's not what's in that system today, but it is something that we talk about.
Where does the 6-axis sensor sit?
It also sits underneath the rear seat. We try to get it as close as we can to the CG. It's not quite where the CG is. You can do transforms to kind of calculate that back.
Is the strategy there to be kind of center located on the truck?
That's right. Yep.
And to add to that point, we spent a lot of time with the supplier for that IMU. So they sent a lot of people from their offices out to our field to do testing both on off-road terrain, on-road terrain, and towing as well, just to make sure that they're actually getting where it's located and it's fitting and working as they're intending their product to work with. So a lot of time spent on that, just vetting that whole system out from a replacement standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? Like, we wanted to validate and make sure that the signals that the IMU was getting were real. You don't want to have noise. You don't want to have your inputs being incorrect, because that will then drive incorrect suspension control. Any other questions? You must have more questions.
Okay, someone else, please.
What about the springs? You guys said that it's hard to get people to.
Well, I think there's a lot of off-the-shelf springs. If you go to any spring manufacturer, they kind of have their basic set. But then you might want something that doesn't land in their normal catalog. And that's what a lot of this truck's design is around, a packaging exercise. You're making this truck way more capable than it ever could have been. And you're trying to fit all that into that corner, a bump stop, a big shock, the right spring. And so to make everything fit, we said we need a special spring that's for this truck. And we worked with our supplier, not just to make it dimensionally right, to make it the right rate, but also to live, right? We have requirements on how long this truck has to go. So we tested each spring and worked with the supplier. First round didn't go so good. Guys, come back, this needs to live, right?
And to add to that, from a customer standpoint, the typical process is you'll have a spring tender or like a helper spring up top if you want the dual rate. That's kind of the off-road method to get around it. So those kind of scratch up your shock bodies over time, and that's not what we're going for with this vehicle. It's a good quality finished vehicle, so that's where you get that dual rate that comes into play. It's all there. It's not going to scratch your body. It's not going to push into it or bow in a weird way. And that, just really want to reiterate how much design effort goes into that. Like, it's simple, I know, but let me tell you, this is a ton of resource that went into just spring design alone. And then also working with tuning, and then that has to make sure that your ride frequencies are still good and in check, and it'll also then pass durability standards. So just a ton of it's very small things like that where you wouldn't think about it, but it adds up across the entire platform, the entire chassis. And that's kind of my point, is that everything on here is the way it is for a reason. It's not just thrown together. This has been a very thought out, meticulously planned and developed vehicle. So. Anything else?
Yeah, so we got a little time till the food gets here. We're gonna eat lunch before we go out in the trucks. So we're gonna go over a couple more design envelopes, kind of like why we got the trucks right here.
Still cleaning while they're.
Yeah, while they're cleaning before we get all dusty, right? We're gonna go have fun with these things. Wheel liners. You know, when you widen the body, you try to use the OEM wheel liner, you're gonna have a gap. You're gonna be catching mud. They're gonna be falling down. You're gonna be grabbing harnesses with stuff, ripping electrical apart.
Those are one of my favorite features on the trucks, because, like, you know, how many trucks have been built aftermarket? You put a suspension on it, you put different body panels, and that's always one of the biggest things. Like, hey, what do I do with my wheel wells? It looks like I got a clunky truck, but I got all this money into it. And it's like, the solution's there.
And I love it. You know, there's so much cool tech all over the truck. So it's like, you almost feel a little corny talking about it, but it's cool. That took a lot of time for the designers to, get. You can see how it Frenches around the cactus cooler and the bump stop and everything. We want it to look intentional. We don't want our people at the plant cutting that out. Everything's going to look different. It's all intentionally done. Can't see it, the tire rack up in the bed. All matches durability. We've learned a lot. All the OEMs fixture that bed a little differently. GM undermounts it. There's no bolts you can pull out the top and then come back down through with and pinch it to the frame. So we had to create that ourselves. We are strategically piloting and then countersinking in and tying it to the frame. Because if you try to clamp that corrugation, you're gonna rip it apart. That thing's gonna go flying out the back. You're gonna want a new bed. So there's a base mount that stays permanently installed, tied to the frame, and then there's options at time of purchase. But you can spec, do I want a single tire carrier? Do I want a dual tire carrier? Dual looks cool, they both stand up. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want the cleaner look. The single stays underneath the top of the bed. So you can spec that out. That changes. It's bushing mounted. You can take that out without taking the base mount out. We didn't want you to have to get all up in there to do that. So you pull 4 bolts, thing comes out. Say you're going on a trip and you need to put something else in there. You can pull it out, pull 4 bolts, the whole thing comes out. The dual tire carrier has extra auxiliary mounting in it. And we haven't developed it yet. We want to, or if you have something that can, you want to add Rotopax cams in. You want to add lights in the back. There's already light purchase. You want to add a jack mount. You can put that in there. So it's not just rattling around hammering on stuff. We try to think ahead so that you can optimize this how you want. We could try to do that all ourselves, but it still isn't going to be really what you want. So we're trying to leave some low-hanging fruit for the end user to really customize it even further. We've got the amp power boards on it. It's not always going to be 6-foot dudes getting in this. You might have your shorter wife. That way she can get up in the truck easier. If you don't want them to work, you can pull it out of the OBD2 and it will be non-functional. They're lighted also, so that helps protect the body.
Thanks, Jordan, and I really appreciate coming from the aftermarket world. So much thought going into the vehicle in general. because all the little details, right? When you build an aftermarket truck, the wheel wells just matching properly and everything fitting up, it's just a lot of thought and detail went into figuring everything out. And that stuff's really hard to figure out.
The stuff you don't get when you go.
It's the stuff you don't ever see.
And we want it to look as close to it and work like a pre-runner as possible. You know, you look at some of the other contenders in the space, the body widths and the aspect ratio of the flares kind of vary a little bit. We didn't want big chunky, plastic flares on this thing. We wanted that really sexy, full-bodied look, that nice prescribed stance and entire tread coverage, so you're not slinging crap all over your body. Like I said earlier, we want to get the same quality experience as you would buying this truck as if you bought a regular Silverado. Everything's functional. We do testing to make sure and certify that all the safety systems still perform within the requirements. We have custom molded covers for the rear cross traffic, and it works. If you're backing out, somebody's coming, it's going to hit the brakes and it's going to stop you. We've got full park sensor integration, so your park sensors work. It's going to detect it, pick it up. We don't delete it, we don't cover it, it's fully functional. When you get these trucks, a regular truck, it's fully certified for safety. When we change it, it's our due diligence to recertify, to make sure that it's going to stop right with the 37-inch tires. We do FMVSS testing, we do brake testing, we do stability testing. We do ADAS testing. We make sure the vehicle is going to detect and stop itself. We use third parties to recertify all that, to make sure that the customer and the occupants are all safe. So there's no assumptions made.
We appreciate that, and I'm glad I never had to do any of it.
We do simulated crash testing.
PowerPoints.
Rear impact, make sure your gas tank's not going to rupture. Side impact, make sure that the occupants are protected. Front impact, we want to make sure that you're not going to get any extra impulse put on you that's going to cause more injury. Like I said, nothing's assumed. Thanks to Baja Kits, all that really cool, optimized, strong alloy aluminum and everything. If that was steel, that weigh probably about another 60 to 80 pounds each. Yeah, everything's optimized, like that knuckle that you see when we cracked the aluminum ones. We didn't just recreate it out of iron, we optimized it because guess what? We got the baddest suspension guys with us. Max, do you want to add a bunch of unsprung weight? No, you want to minimize that. So when we did analysis on this, when we changed from aluminum to iron, that would have netted 18 pounds on each front corner. And that would have disturbed all of the work these guys have done, all that revalving. It might add another 60 iterations. So we used outside simulation experts that do work for the OEMs. Went through about 20 different categories of failure mode analysis, and we reduced that knuckle down to an 11-pound app. We got rid of it was almost 8 pounds deduction on weight. We could have done the easy thing, just change it to iron. But no, we optimized. So that's why you see holes in certain spots versus the OEM one. That's why they're out here to see.
As far as prep for the truck, after however many miles,
yeah.
Do you do anything is Brenthal offering any?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you get this truck, you're going to see labels applied to it, QR codes. Scan that with your phone, hit it, it's going to take you to the owner's manual. Within that owner's manual, it's going to go over everything. It's going to go over the electrical. It's going to go over the amperage loads. It's going to go over where you can do things. It's going to go over the service intervals. We upgraded the oil viscosity. These come with a 0-20 from the factory. We're changing it to a 540. Why? We want a higher viscosity at operating temps to keep the oil in that bearing under load. And then we do a proactive oil change. It's in the instruction manual. We want you, if you buy this truck, at 3,000 miles, go in, get the oil changed. And then the service interval is 5,000 after that. We don't want you to wait till the check-in, until the oil light comes on, because that could be 8,000 to 12,000 miles. Be proactive. And then, yeah, all the parts we put on, there's grease zerks on them. So it all goes in there too. There's a list of what to do and when to do it.
That's a big benefit of the bolt-on package. There's no welding to the frame, right? So they had a good point the other day where it's you weld something, it breaks, you want to service something or change it, you've got to put your welds off, you got to grind it. Yeah, so everything is interchangeable. If something does go wrong, you can swap out the whole part set. There's no issues there in terms of custom fabric, I guess is where I'm going with that. So,
and
is everything
this started? We made a concern list. We were very concerned about that frame.
Yeah.
So is everything bolt-on to maintain the factory warranty, the GM warranty?
So here's how the warranty works. There's OEM warranty, and then there's our Fox factory warranty. Anything that we alter or we affect, our warranty applies, and we cover that. Say you have a stereo issue, that's going to be GM. Say a wire harness wasn't secured and you pull a plug out, that's us. We're going to get a new harness, we're going to get it fixed. It's us, we honor it. If it's the OEM, that's a discussion. We have a full-fledged customer service team with a warranty portal You can submit. We track that data on response time. It's not just, oh, we'll get back to you whenever. No, we want them getting back within 2 hours. And then it's a conversation that's held between that dealer and our reps to navigate through that to minimize the grief of the customer. There's obviously preferred dealers to go to. You know, that's why the QR code's on there. And there will be labels under the hood with an email address and a phone number. So if you're not getting help, call us, email us, let us help. Don't get frustrated. We want you to be happy.
You mentioned the frame. Are you familiar? Is the factory frame on the 1500 Silverado, is it aluminum or is it steel?
Steel.
It's steel? Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of the bolt-on stuff, you're not getting any weird heat zones from welding. You're not affecting it. It's not going to become brittle. We did have to work through a ton of development issues with this chassis in particular.
Yeah.
I went into too much depth, but there's a lot of torsional rigidity that we're trying to add in to stiffen up portions of the frame.
And the other thing is, if you've ever worked on a GM truck, it's like you look at the frame, you get that black crap that these frames are dipped. If you look at the cross members, you'll see they're dipped lengthwise back first. You can see the droplets.
Yeah.
It's like a waxy petrol. It'll get all over you. So if we wanted to weld to them, you got to scrape it off. You got to use chemicals. You got to try to clean it. And guess what? Even if it's steel, it's still porous. That stuff's still going to be in there, and you could get potential, you know, porosity in your welds, contamination. It's a lot to really assure that 500 of these are going to be done right.
The corrosion.
We can make sure our weldments are right. You can clamp on.
Has the front off stuff covered too on your one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Baja Kids full. Yeah, everything on it. You lose a wheel center cap.
Yeah.
We're gonna send you a new one. Everything's covered.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in terms of under the hood, what else is done? Is it just the supercharger, or is there more?
Under the hood, you'll see there's a Gen 5 3-liter Whipple put on there. There's a heat exchanger added in the front. There's the upgraded 200% size plate transmission cooler in the front. There's a twin screw ARB in the passenger front area. It's got an air chuck, like I think I said earlier. It comes with an ARB coil hose and a digital pressure gauge.
Yeah.
So you know you can air up, air down, help your buddies out. You'll even see there's a strut brace. There's multiple reasons for that. 1, steering crispness. 2, reducing fatigue to the strut bucket. So very intentional. Clears over. It's not just to look cool.
Yeah. And in terms of future serviceability, the motor internally is factory and everything else.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So that's a conversation that's had between our customer service and the dealership, you know, service writer. As far as, you know, say you have a coil pack fail, that's GM. If you have something that's attributed to the added performance, it could be us, it could be something else. So we navigate through that, but ultimately the customer will get taken care of. You're not going to be just left out there in never land and wondering, you know, what's going on. We're going to take care of you.
Now, RCV normally comes, so if you buy RCVs, normally they come with a lifetime warranty. Is that the same on this?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for that one, to be honest. I know what you're talking about because I bought them and I've had them before. And they have the alloy upgrade, you know, option to go. If you buy them, you don't want to spend for 300M, you can go Pro Moly and upgrade. These are 300M.
Okay.
Max has beat the snot out of this thing and not broken any or had any issues. I mean, I joke and I call him Max D because it lines up to, you know, like Tom Mentz. I mean, the dude can break anything. So
It's worth talking about, though. We did go through a few different CV iterations as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, normally these kits kind of strap out at 13 inches of travel, and they do that for a reason. It's easier.
there was boot.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time developing stuff, a lot of going back and forth with RCV.
Yeah, we had some rubber issues, so yeah,
Changes
a lot
there.
of collaboration to make sure things are going to last.
Do you have to like get it with the part? Like you guys check it out how the part?
This will be for 24. This is what you're going to get.
We need to replace that.
By bedside.
Yeah.
So say if you
think about them going for range.
Yeah, so here's how it's going to work. If the dealership can't do it, we're not going to let you just have Joe Schmo replace that bedside. If the dealer can't do it, we'll bring it back to our plant, we'll do it. Collisions happen, acts of God happen, a deer could run into the thing, like, we're going to take care of it.
You know, production number 1 is spoken for.
Production number 1 is under construction, it's near complete.
I have a collector customer, he's asking that question, so that's why I asked.
So, with that question, get with Cameron. There's speculation, Yeah.
No, I figured, but he asked me, so I thought I'd ask.
There's things like it could go to Bear Jackson, it could be the CEOs, it could be to there. It's not spoken for that I know of, but I can't make any promises. So
You will see it does have, they both have serial badge 1. That is just for content. Yeah, they are.
I noticed. Yeah.
yeah.
So we have lunch ready. If everyone wants to head on over.
From here, we had some lunch, and then we headed to the desert for a ride along and drive. But first they stopped us at a local bridge while they got the second truck ready that was on the lift. They talked a little bit about the ride along and all, but I could not get good audio here. It was just way too windy. But the spot made for a good photo op, and I think that was their intention. There was a few Raptor guys here with their trucks just like we were too. Next up was the ride along with Max behind the wheel, and he is a madman. Now, I'm gonna show you the ride along clips I captured raw here. We will talk about my impressions of the truck on the trails next week, but for today, we're gonna let the clips speak for themselves.
Well, it's got a little bulge on there, huh?
So the quick and dirty, this is kind of our fast loop if you're familiar with Baja racing. This is like the same section. Lots of interchanging lines. Good open type of energy to everything kind of twisted. Do keep your heads up for a black truck coming back. I think we should be good to miss them.
Yeah, they took off at least like 5 minutes before you come back.
Okay. Yeah. Keep your eyes out for them. That's more I want. So we're doing 70 right now. Wow. In and out. We're in the desert sport mode. We've got a heavy cab with full body weights, 2 tires. So just gonna put it basically in firm mode. Just avoid any thing. So you kind of feel like the top right here. That was a big issue coming down the tuning side. Lots of chassis development had to go to try and get that chop minimized. Welcome to the golf cart finger shop. It's a bit to tune out, but we did the best.
This ain't no Silverado. What the heck?
You guys all buckled in?
Yep. Seeing them bumps is crazy. I think like,
It's you want to tense up. You're like, what's it gonna do?
especially when I see an Apple CarPlay.
Yeah, keep in mind, it's 106 outside right now. It's not.
It's crazy.
You're just on a leisurely stroll, I feel like, more than anything, which is very frustrating because, you know.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Is this serious? Feel bad for the bastard that gets this one.
No. This one will stay on as a development vehicle.
Okay.
Don't worry. This one's been through the ringer at this point. It is worth pointing out that 8,000 miles of just this type of shit. It's had a hard life, but in the name of durability testing. Welcome back, y'all.
All right, guys, that's it for this video. I'm going to close out this video with the clips I got of the truck on the actual trail, and I'm going to slow down some of those clips so you guys can really see what the truck is doing. Don't forget to come back next week for a video where we deep dive into my thoughts on the truck, what we saw, the good, the bad, the ugly, and if I would get one. I'm also going to have Josh, who's been on the channel before, join me for that since we were at the event together, so that you guys can get more than just my impressions on this truck. All right, guys, questions, comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and put on your notifications so you can get notified when the video comes out. And thank you for watching.
Really? Yeah. I think it was that little jump. It was certainly not that long. No.